It's the Opperman Report. Join digital forensic investigator and PI Ed Opperman for an in-depth discussion of conspiracy theories, strategy of New World Order resistance, high-profile court cases in the news, and interviews with expert guests and authors on these topics and more. It's the Opperman Report. And now, here is investigator Ed Opperman.
Okay, it's Friday night, 5 o'clock. Welcome to the Opperman Report. I am your host, private investigator Ed Opperman. This show is brought to you by Audible.com. You go to audibletrial.com, Opperman Report. Get yourself a free audio book and help support the show. Tonight we are broadcasting live on TalkSuperstation.com, Public Streaming Radio Network, Awake Radio US, Awake Radio UK, Wolf Spirit Radio, 1800 Online, Shizaz Radio, Just Us Radio Network, Scottish Sovereigns on the Land, MyRadiostream.com, on TuneIn.com. Later on, you can find us on Spreaker. As a matter of fact, right now we're live on Spreaker. And also later on tonight, you can find us on YouTube and iHeartRadio. The show will be replayed throughout the week on High Point Radio in the New York area, 1700 AM and 105.5 FM. Saturday morning, Penny Entertainment Online, Blog Talk Radio, Talk Superstation, Cave Radio broadcasting twice a week. Saturday evening, 7 p.m., Para X Radio. Let's see, what else? Late Night in the Midlands on Tuesdays, and Firehorse Radio on Wednesdays. Every day, Monday to Friday, we're repeated on FPRNradio.com. Okay, so tonight, got a really interesting guest. I saw him on CNN this week, or one of these stations, CNN or Fox or something like that, talking about the prison break in Dannemora. Now, this is not the guest that I was, my inside guest who lives up there in Dannemora and has a boyfriend up there in the prison. Got a lot of information from her, but she's no longer willing to come on the show. I guess too much heat came down on her and her boyfriend. Her boyfriend over there has a lawsuit against that prison, the Clinton Correctional Facility. But we have this guest here tonight who's a very fascinating guy from the Bronx, which is extra points. And he wrote a book called, I got it coming up here, Gangster-Redemption. And he also is the president of this organization called Reality Check Program. And he's also like even though he went to prison and stuff like that, he was a jewel robber. He is an honorary police officer in Lake St. Louis, Missouri. So if you got any tickets, we can give him a call and he can try and fix the tickets for you. Hey, Larry, are you there?
Glad to be here. That's a good one about the guy. I was also recognized on the floor of the United States Congress last year as well for working with young people, what I do.
God bless you. Were you holding a gun on him at the time?
It's funny because I testified at Congress one time, Ed, and while I'm testifying about how to help, police agencies, how to help young people, and how to better, connect police with the community and helping young people in general with the Reality Check Program. And I'm testifying in Congress, and I actually, there's the you testify, you sit, you read a statement. And I said, everybody in this room has skeletons in our closet. We all do. You should have seen the look on their faces, Ed.
Oh, I bet.
They probably figured I knew something, but, everybody does have skeletons in their closet.
Well, just think.
I think you have to handle those.
In that group, a jewel thief is a choir boy.
Yeah. When I was on that show, and I'm actually in the congressional records for what I do, Ed, and somebody said to me, Larry, why do you want to go on there? You have a higher approval rating than Congress.
Yeah. Okay, so now as you could tell, Larry, like myself, we're both from the London, England. We were born there in Berkshire Falls over there in London, England. Another Bronx boy, right, Larry?
Absolutely. I'm born and raised in the Bronx, and then we moved up in the world, Ed. We went to Brooklyn. But yeah, I went right from, I lived in Throgs Neck, went to Lehman High School, PS 172, St. Francis, got kicked out of that. Yeah. There were stories I'm sure we'll all get into today. We're going to have some time here together, and I think it'll be a great show. And you don't have to worry about anything, Ed. I will say it like it is. And whatever heat comes down, it comes down. I always say that. I believe in what I say, and let the cards fall where they may.
No, I hear you, man, and I really appreciate that. So let's hear the story, man. Where does it start? Growing up in the Bronx?
Well, the book actually starts, the opening of my book, Gangster-Redemption. I actually developed the program first, but the opening of my book, Ed, is when I was tortured in prison.
Oh, really?
I was tortured in federal prison by guards. I was strapped down naked, beaten, and tortured. I was put in a hole for 11 straight months for fighting the death that go on in prison by guards. And as you said, I'm on a lot of networks. Actually, I'll be on CNN tomorrow morning as well, and then some other big shows next week. I'm one of the key contributors for MSNBC, and with what I do, Ed, crime prevention, kid help, and exposing the broken system we have today.
Yeah, it really is a nightmare, our prison system today. But why don't you give us an idea of who is Larry Lawton?
Sure. Let me start right from the beginning, Ed. I was born and raised in the Bronx, New York, and pretty typical growing up. Got in trouble like a little kid, in and out of trouble, that kind of stuff. I ended up going in the Coast Guard at 17 years old, and did well. I was in the Coast Guard for a while, and I got hurt in the service. Well, right when I got out hurt in the service, Ed, and I got retired. I'm actually a retired veteran. I got out of the service, and I was right back with the mobsters. And as you well know in the Bronx, Ed, it's pretty well, it's easy to know a lot of mobsters where we grew up. Anyway, I got right back into crime. I did a lot of bad things, and I'm not proud of that, Ed. I'll be the first one to tell you that. I'm not proud of that. But I did my time. I ended up doing I got caught in December of 1996. I ended up doing 4 12-year sentences, which will run concurrent, and I beat a life sentence because I beat what they call a gun charge, a 924C. I did the law for 10 years, Ed. I'm very renowned with the law. I actually had a few cases in the Supreme Court for people in prison. That's called pro se. So I ended up getting out of prison in 2007. I went in 1996. I got out of prison in 2007. When I got out of prison, I'm just out, and it's a funny story. I get out of prison, and a friend comes up to me and says, "Hey, Larry, I need a favor." Oh, geez, what do you want me to break somebody's legs? He goes, No, Larry, I caught my 16-year-old smoking weed, and he told me, "F you, Dad, where have you ever been?" I said, "Your son told you that?" I ended up getting things together, and I said, "I'll speak to him." I'm really, everything is aligned with the stars, Ed, and I'll tell you why. I have pictures in my program that you can't do anymore. It's me in prison with gang members, with some serious people. I was in maximum security prisons. So I ended up getting the pictures together. I went and saw the kid. And I don't curse. I don't yell. You saw my picture. It looks like I could be a scared straight program, but I'm not. I end up looking at the kid, Ed, and I said, two curse words, Ed. I said, "You told your father where the F he's been. Let me show you where the F I just came from." Then sat down, Ed, started showing pictures, telling stories. It really brought a lot of memories back, and I looked at the kid. I saw the kid for about 2 hours. The father comes to me, after and says, "Hey, thanks, Larry." I said, "Let me know what happened." 2 weeks later, he comes up and he says, "Larry," he goes, "I don't care what you do with your law background. I don't care anything like that. You got to work with kids." My kid come up to me and said, "Dad, I need help. I don't want to go where Mr. Lawton went." Well, the word started spreading, Ed, and all of a sudden, people are calling me up, and now they're just throwing me like $100, $50, whatever. I have no set thing. Anyway, I get a call from the juvenile court coordinator in Central Florida, and she says, "Mr. Lawton, you speak to kids." I said, "Yes." She goes, "Can you please come to the courthouse and show the judge what you do?" Let me put it this way, Ed. Back in 2007, this is the beginning of 2008, I really didn't want to go into a courtroom, Ed. So anyway, I talk to the kid. I go in. My nephew helps me put together a PowerPoint, which I didn't even have. That's a whole nother part of the show. We'll talk about what institutionalization. But anyway, I go see the judge on a Friday. Never forget. It's in my book too, Ed. And I said to, I give the judge a presentation. She goes, "Oh, Mr. Lawton, that's amazing. Would you like to stay for the rest of the meeting?" I said, No. I wanted to get out of there, Ed, So I end up leaving. This is on a Friday. Monday morning, I get a phone call from the juvenile court coordinator. She goes, Mr. Lawton, I have to give you a heads up. The judge sentenced 2 kids to your program. What program? Well, because of that, Ed, the reality check program was born. And now, Ed, I'm proud to say, it's the #1 program in the United States. We have the highest success rate in the United States. We are used by the court systems, police agencies, the Department of Justice, Weed and Seed program. I've been to Congress, and the program has been vetted by the Department of Justice. And we have the #1 program with the highest success rate, documented, not by me, Ed, documented by a college independent quantitative analysis. And that's a great, great story, because when I was in Congress, this is a few years later, they're talking about how proud I am of the success rate of the reality check program. And I said, hold on. I said, they go, you must be very proud of that number. I said, I am, but the number I'm proud of is the number I don't know. And they go, what do you mean? I says, I don't know how many kids that went to my program, saw my video, and didn't get into a car with a kid with a gun, or didn't get into that car with kids with drugs, or didn't get into trouble or get hooked up with the gang. I said, I know there's a number out there, but that's the number I'm more proud of. So that's how I got to doing what I do today, Ed. And since then, as you mentioned earlier, I am the first ex-con in the United States who is sworn in as an honorary police officer in Lake St. Louis, Missouri. And actually, the state of Missouri head of law enforcement was at my swearing in. And then I was also recognized on the floor of the United States Congress, which is really a pretty big honor. Yeah. And as the only ex-con ever recognized on the floor of the United States Congress. So the program does very well. I speak all over the country. As you see me on TV, that's just part of what I do. But I also have a high success rate, which we'll get into more. And we can get into any questions about the broken prison system, what happened to me in prison, our Bronx days, Ed. This could be interesting because I'm sure you've seen a lot of the stuff I have.
Oh, yeah.
So, and I think we're close in age,
I was going to
as
ask
well.
you, how old are you?
Well, I'll be 54 in October.
Okay, I'm 53. I was born in 62.
I was born in 61, Ed.
Okay, okay, good. Okay. And we're both from the Bronx. Gee whiz. Okay, and I'm from Soundview Avenue in the Bronx, right by the number 6 train between the Soundview station and the St. Lawrence station, the Crows Avenue.
Oh, my God. I used to go to Buer Avenue on the 6th line. I used to get off at Westchester Square or, Buer Avenue all the way down to Pelham. And not only that, Ed, you make it funny. Soundview, I used to go to the Q Lounge, the pool hall up in Soundview.
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
That's right, Gun Hill Road, Soundview area. You're bringing back memories. Yeah. I went to Lehman High School in the Bronx, which you know where that is, in Westchester Square, right off of East Tremont Avenue.
Well, I left the Bronx at about 13 years old and went to Staten Island.
Oh, you really moved up in the world.
And talk about, I think there was more gangsters on Staten Island than I ever met in the Bronx.
Actually, Ed, my brother-in-law, at the time I was married, my brother-in-law lived in New Dorp, off of Highland Boulevard. Highland Boulevard. Do you remember the bar called Penny Feathers?
Oh, of course, yeah.
That was my cousin's place.
Oh, get out of here. What was his name?
And that was a gangster place. You do know that.
What was his name? Yeah, sure. What was his name? Do you remember? Oh, yeah, your cousin. Yeah.
What did you say? Ed, I'm sorry.
What was your cousin's name?
Oh, Lenny. Lenny.
Okay. Yeah, I don't remember. Lenny Lawton?
No. That was my marriage name, Lenny Caglione.
Lenny Caglione. Okay, yeah. All right, yeah. So, yeah, I had a business in the Staten Island Mall for years. And I lived in Annandale first, and then Eltingville, and then right by the Staten Mall, New Springville. And then came here to Nevada. And
I actually been to Castellano's house, the old White House, they called it, up on Toad Hill.
Oh, yeah.
Back in my gangster days, which, I'm sure the book, I was associated with the Gambino crime family, and I made a lot of money for a lot of people. Again, we'll get into it all, because I'm not proud of that part of my life, but it is who I was. Everybody changes. I like your listeners to know that, Ed. People do change. I want everybody out there who listens to this show to understand that. Now, whether you have a relative who's in jail or a kid that's doing drugs or something, we work with a lot of people, which people can just Google my name, Larry Lawton. It's throughout the show, I'm sure we'll talk about it. And people do change, Ed.
Oh, sure.
I tell people this all the time when they say, oh, they're never going to change. I ran into a police chief once, really pissed me off. I'm in a tough area down, I was in Central Florida in a bad area. When I say bad, I mean bad for rehabilitation or bad for anything like that. They still had the KKK down. They still do. Yeah. Anyway, what I want to get at, Ed, is, a chief of police tells me once, he says, yeah, some of these kids you got to give up on. Boy, that got me mad. I walked out of his car, opened the doors and stopped the car. I got out. Since then, you can read about stuff that I've posted about that. I'm all over the place. And, Ed, I tell people, when you're 20 years old, you think you know it all. Well, when you hit 30, you look back and say, what an idiot I was at 20. When you hit 40, you look back and say, I still didn't know anything at 30. Well, Ed, we're 50s, and look back, we say, wow, I was an idiot at 40. So we keep learning, and people do change. I want everybody to know that.
Well, I think at 50 we realize that we're still idiots, I'm an idiot right now.
I think we're on the way down. I think we're going to keep saying, well, I was smarter at 50 now. But
well, let me ask you a question. Okay, now, I guess we're going out of chronological order. But when you first came out of prison, you must have been tempted to go back and doing stuff, right? Those are the only people you knew.
Well, Ed, that's a great question because, first of all, nobody ever gets out of prison says, I'm going back. Nobody ever does, Ed. That's why I've been talking about this case and in what really goes on with rehabilitation. No inmate ever gets out of prison and says, oh, I think I'm going to go back. What happens is, and let me tell you why recidivism is so high, Ed. And keep me on the clock, Ed. Let me know what you're doing at your show so I can ramble.
Okay.
But let me give you a little heads up on what we call recidivism. The reason people recidivate, and this is because we are, whether you want to call it blessed or we're just gifted to actually forget or put the bad things that happened to us behind us. And let me explain. Ed, I owned a horse. I owned a couple of horses down here in Florida. So I got my horses, and my one horse used to try to knock me off with its head. So we used to have to put a tie down on its harness around its head, the halter, into its chest plate so it wouldn't lift its head and knock you off the horse. So the guy at the ranch says, Larry, do you want your horse to stop that? I said, yes. Now, I don't want to get all your listeners in an uproar. Well, he gets up on the horse, he takes a beer bottle, he puts warm water in the beer bottle, Ed. The horse does that. He took the clip off. The horse tries to knock him off. He hits the horse over the head with the beer bottle. It doesn't hurt the horse, Ed. Please, all people out there, it does not hurt the horse. But the horse's hoofs go out, like in shock. It felt the warm water go over its head, Ed, and it thought it was its own blood. It never will forget that, and it won't rear its head again. And we as humans are gifted with the ability to put the negative that happens to us behind us. And that is so powerful, Ed, that I try to show people that is why people recidivate. Listen, nobody has good stories of prison. But when they get out, they get back into the groove, and before you know it, they put the negative behind it. Because if you can remind yourself how bad it was in prison, the food, the being told what to do, lockdowns, everything that goes along with it, and physical abuse, sexual abuse, everything that goes on in prison, you'll never go back. But you get to put that behind you, and that's really a gift because we can then go on and move on with our lives. Like we all have skeletons in our closet, Ed. Whatever they are, we all have them. And I don't mind it. I think people need to just, realize what they are, deal with them, and become stronger for them. I was strapped down naked, beaten, and tortured once a month in federal prison, the worst prison system in the world. I love people who say, oh, you're in the feds, state. When you get to maximum security prisons, Ed, the federal system is the worst system in the world. And I will get anybody on this show, and we will debate that, and I can tell them stories, and I've been there, lived it. lived it. So my point with you there is that you have the ability to put that behind us and move on and become, better. Like, I take all the things that ever happened to me. I was abused as a kid, Ed, and by a priest, and maybe that's why I'm not, so to speak, religious. I am spiritual, if you'd like to call it that. But my point to you, Ed, is I look at things in a different light. I always look at things and say, people change, and I take whatever has happened to me and I turn it into a positive. And I hope your listeners get that and do that as well.
Okay, but the thing is, when you got out of prison, though, your first instinct must have been to go back to the guys you knew, and you had to make a living, you had to make money right away, right? Because you're right out. So, did you go back to your friends?
I was lucky in a few ways, Ed. Yeah. One, I'm a retired veteran. I do get a check from the Coast Guard. I'm retired from the Coast Guard. I got hurt in the service. Besides that, I had very good family support. My mom, that's why I'm in Florida, Ed. Oh. My mom moved to Florida in 1983 into a place called Palm Bay, Florida, which is on the East Coast, like Cocoa Beach. People remember Jeannie and I Dream of Jeannie. I'm right in that county. It's called Brevard County, Florida. And so we moved, my mom and them moved here in 83. I ended up coming down to Florida in 86 when I was with the Wise Guys. I was in Fort Lauderdale at the time, which I am now again. I am in Fort Lauderdale. So that's where I went, Ed, from doing what I did to coming down here and not having to just jump into crime.
Okay,
that one of my friends said that, he said, Larry, there's a difference with you. He goes, we all knew you had the intelligence and stuff to do what you do, but we worried about you having to work at some menial job and somebody telling you what to do to the point of, disrespecting you and demeaning you. And I think that's, again, part of the problem with our rehabilitation systems and helping people get back on their feet.
And like a lot of Bronx kids, you wound up making a living talking on TV and the radio.
Yeah, like you, Ed.
Okay, wait. I got a couple questions. How old were you when you got out of prison?
I got out of prison at 46 years old.
Wow.
Almost 8 years. August 24th will be my 8-year anniversary.
Okay, now what was the case that got you in prison? And how'd the feds get involved in it? How don't be federal charges?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I got arrested for Hobbs Act robbery, which is interfering with interstate commerce by way of robberies.
Gotcha.
I was the biggest jewel robber in the country. I robbed between $15 and $18 million in diamonds. I didn't hurt anybody in robberies, Ed. I mean, who really hated me was insurance companies. I ended up doing 4 12-year sentences. I did all the time. I did 11 years. But the time ran concurrent. And people often ask, why do you do that? Why do they give a person 3 life sentences? And I have to explain to them, in the law, if I appeal one of my cases and win, I still got to do my time. If a person has 3 life sentences and they appeal one and win it, they still got a life sentence. So that's why they do that. They're different cases. They will do the time like that.
So now these jewelry robberies, these were hijack robberies?
Well, no. I robbed wholesalers and jewelry stores, and I would take them over.
Okay.
I would go in and plan them out, and actually, sad as it is, if a person reads my book, Gangster-Redemption, you can literally rob a jewelry store. Don't, please, and you will eventually get caught. I always say that. Everyone does. Although the FBI told me, they go, Larry, why didn't you just quit? You were so good at it. Why you didn't quit? I robbed about 20 stores, Ed, up and down the East Coast. I'm still known to this day as the biggest jewel robber in the United States. I do a lot of commentating and speaking at jewelry conventions and jewelry insurance company events. And I robbed between $15 and $18 million, about 20, a little over 20 stores, all up and down the East Coast from Connecticut all the way to Florida. Not New York, Ed. You don't rob in New York City. You don't do that. The boys got that locked up. But I robbed everywhere from Maryland to Georgia and areas around Pennsylvania and Connecticut and Florida.
So then what would you do if you're going to do a stick up down, let's say Connecticut or Pennsylvania? Would you go down there and rent a motel room and hang out for a couple of months and stake it out? What would you do?
Absolutely. Well, what I would do, Ed, is it would take me between 2 and 3 weeks to case an area or in a store.
Okay.
Right. My first robbery, Ed, was a setup. The owner of the place wanted insurance money.
Okay.
So I ended up, knowing the kind of I still had to do the robbery. Had to be totally legit. The employee didn't know, or the person there. It was just the owner wanted money for his jewels. Believe it or not, I don't know how many of the owners really are mad because of insurance and what they got. And funny story, Ed, I do a robbery and the federal guy says, well, you got $1.2 million out of that store. I said, no. I might have got about $800,000 out of that store. And he starts laughing. He goes, well, I think that guy, I said, hey, that's the truth. He goes, listen, Larry, we can't do anything that. You did rob him. I said, I did. So I ended up going away, Ed, for 4 12-year sentences, and I don't believe in ratting. Let me explain that, too. I went away alone on a RICO. I'm one of the only men ever to go away alone on a RICO. Nobody on my crew or anybody ever went to prison. And people say to me, oh, you're not really rehabilitated. Oh, hold on. Nobody's doing a robbery. Nobody's doing anything. I don't even know where people are anymore. Nobody is in crimes or anything like that. And I'm not here to do the police's job or the investigator's job, as you know, Ed. And I accepted responsibility for what I did and did my time. I was offered 3 years by the federal government to rat on guys like John Gotti, and I knew all them. I knew a lot, and I wouldn't do that. Just not because of people say, oh, you're going to get killed. It's not about that, Ed. It's about feeling okay with yourself. One of my big problems we have in today's world, Ed, is we have people, the government, they want to get a kid who smokes weed and selling an ounce of weed, and they want to flip them, so to speak, to get Pablo Escobar. Well, you're not going to get Pablo Escobar with this kid who's selling an ounce of weed. Let's help this kid. Let's try to find out why this kid's got to do weed and what's his problems. Let's try to help him. Once you take away his dignity, Ed, it's very hard for me to help him. So I work on that in that regard.
But a couple of questions. One is...
Sure, ask away, Ed.
Okay, because now that you're in the public eye, you must once in a while hear from one of these old guys. They must send you an email or a phone call saying, hey, Larry, what's going on? You must hear something, right?
Funny, Ed, I ended up meeting my old boss. I was in New York City, about a year ago, maybe a little more than a year ago, maybe about a year, whatever it was. I'm in the city, actually went up with a couple of couples, friends, and because I'm up in New York City a lot. I do a lot of TV work. I go to The Daily Show. I go to other shows. And I'm up there, and I go to Brooklyn. And I go in, and I see the guy, and they love me, Ed.
Okay. And
they love me because I didn't rat. And I was a stand-up guy, which you don't know. That the way of that is dead today, Ed, sadly. And so I don't hear, yes, when I first got out, actually I heard from a couple of guys that wanted to invest with me. And let's put it this way. I politely turned everything down, Ed. I don't want it, don't need it. And I don't want to be associated with that ever again.
Okay, now when you were doing these jobs, when you'd go you'd rent a motel in this town, did you have fake credit cards and fake driver's license and all that kind of stuff?
Ed, back then you didn't need all that. Okay. Back then, you got to remember, I robbed between 1996 and 2007. Well, actually, I went to prison in 96. I'm sorry. I started my so-called robbery career, if you want to call it that, and I think it was 89. So from 89 to 96, things were different then. You can go to an airport and pay cash.
Right.
You can do things with cash at a hotel room, sign a name. Nobody cared. Not like it is in today's world.
Right. Okay, so you go to a town, you didn't have anything to worry about. You go down there and make up any name you want. You're flying for cash. And then you'd start staking the place out. And then you'd call your guys in, and how'd you get cars? You steal cars, rent cars? What'd you do?
Well, we rented cars. I'm going to say your audience has to read the book. It's all explained in the book.
Okay.
Gangster-Redemption, and they can go to my website and get it. They can just go to gangster-redemption.com, or Lawton 911, Larry Lawton. You'll find it. Don't get it other places. Get it my place. It's only $14, just to let you know.
Okay.
But anyway, yes, I would rent a car.
Okay.
In the area. Right before the robbery, I would change plates. The license plates would be flipped. And I never got caught in a store, Ed. Never got caught during a robbery. I got caught by great police work by the FBI. I had no idea how much the FBI was on me and how good they were. They would flood an area and confiscate cameras and everything from like 7-Elevens or Wawa stores or wherever it was. And believe me, the FBI can do their work. Don't anybody kid you how good the FBI is. They're good. And I have a lot of respect for them, Ed, and especially the guy that caught me. Guy's name was Matt Mullen. And he actually said, I've been an FBI agent 30 years. I'm going to retire now, Larry. But, there was a respect back and forth there, Ed. Sure. I wasn't killing people. I wasn't hurting people. I was good at what I did. But it was wrong, and I was putting fear in people, Ed. I don't want you or the listeners to think that, I'm proud of being a criminal the way I was. I'm a lot proud of what I do today, helping people.
Okay, let's take a commercial break right now. We'll be back in about 4 minutes. We're here with Larry Lawton. Fascinating stuff, man. I got to tell you, his book is called Gangster-Redemption, and he's the president of this program called Reality Check Program that mentors kids and scares them straight and straightens them out and prevents them from going into prison like he did for 11 years. We'll be right back after these messages. And now a word from our sponsors. We are listener-sponsored, and we appreciate your donation. If you like the show, please visit OppermanReport.com and click on the donate button, or you can donate directly through PayPal at OppermanReport@gmail.com. We have Mike Ray at InfinityHomePlans.com. He's the host of Parlay over at CJ Marsh Radio, Thursday evenings, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Need custom home designs, stock plans, or 3D work? Use your one-stop shop for home design and drafting needs. Mike Ray at InfinityHomePlans.com. If you're looking for essential oils, stop by and check out Essentially Tammy on Facebook. She is Young Living Essential Oils Independent Distributor. These are 100% therapeutic grade oils. They help support the body's natural functions. You can visit her website posted on Essentially Tammy to see the current deals, or email at JockoTammy, JOCATAMI @yahoo.com, or call 352-239-8546. 352-239-8546. Hey, if you're a private investigator, go to my website, emailreviewer.com. We offer asset searches, locates, skip tracing, adoption investigations, online infidelity investigations. We can recover deleted text messages from a cell phone or trace an email to online dating websites and catch people cheating. That's emailreviewer.com. Or you can call 800-572-9762. 800-572-9762 or email revealer.com. That's my website. Pacific West Bamboo is your premier source for construction, craft-grade bamboo poles. They're announcing their latest project with Ecohead Event Sanitation, making bamboo composting bathrooms and porta potties. Their first display will be at the Lucidity Festival in Santa Ynez, California, April 11th to the 13th. Come by and say hi and see what you can build with bamboo. Contact them for any kind of event planning, display building. If you need construction grade or craft grade bamboo products, call Amanda at 503-839-8126, 503-839-8126. or visit PacificWestBamboo.com, their brand new website. We're also sponsored by the New World Mexican Women. This is a rural Mexican craft women's cooperative. They are traditional makers of fine handcrafted, authentic jewelry. These beautiful stone mosaics, specific new Abilene inlays. They're wonderful book of love letters written to the men in the United States begging them to return to their families in Mexico. But they've written a new book, and it's about a young girl that falls in love with a rodeo bull player and runs off with him without telling him where. It's a beautiful love story called Azuquina Part 1, A Kid to the Rodeo. You can find their books and jewelry by clicking on their banner ad at OppermanReport.com or by Googling New World Mexican Radio. You can also promote your business or website right here and have your ad played all over the world 7 days a week by emailing oppermanreport@gmail.com or calling 800-572-9762. Welcome back to the Opperman Report. I'm your host, Private Investigator Ed Opperman. The show is brought to you by Audible.com. Go to audibletrial.com/Opperman Report. Get yourself a free audiobook. We're here tonight with Larry Lawton, author of the book Gangster-Redemption. And he's also the president of this program called Reality Check program that helps keep kids and helps kids not to go to prison. Larry's been in prison for 11 years, came out, and landed on his feet. But Larry, let me ask you this. When you got out of high school, did you think of going to college, or you went? No one ever encouraged that or anything like that? Because you're a smart guy.
Well, Ed, that's great. First of all, I'd like to just correct. It's not Scared Straight, and our program has nothing to do with Scared Straight.
Okay.
If you have a kid, you put up a barrier, they put up a barrier, and they'll see you, but they won't hear you, and they won't absorb information. Reality Check program is just developed so perfectly. That's why everybody loves it. But anyway, getting back to your question of going to college. Well, I didn't even, in school, I was such a wild kid, Ed. I was in trouble. And it was either one of those things like go to the service or go to jail, or you're not heading in the right direction kind of deal. So what I did, Ed, I joined the Coast Guard. I actually had one of the highest entry exams on the Coast Guard. Back then, you didn't need your high school diploma. Since then, of course, not only do I have high school, I have college as well, and I'm a certified paralegal, actually, as of now. But no, as far as going to college, we grew up at, it wasn't something people thought of. My dad was a construction worker. My mom was a nurse. My dad actually built the World Trade Center, Ed. His company was doing that, and I was on the World Trade Center it was built from 68 to 72, and about 1970, I have a picture of my brother and I up on the 103rd floor when it was the ceiling. It was the top floor, and they put ropes to us, Ed, and they let us crawl to the edge and look out over the side.
A whole nother world, man, right?
You know it, Ed. As a New Yorker, my dad, sadly passed about 4 years ago from Alzheimer's, and it was very sad. And but anyway, I talk about that in my program, how I lost my dad. All due to my choices, Ed.
I got to tell you,
emphasize that.
We have so much in common. I'm a paralegal as well. And
wow.
And my mother and father live down in Florida right now, and my mother has dementia. My mother it's the same. She's a happy dementia patient. She thinks every day's her birthday. And then she's so she's happy all the time. Thank God for that. But we have so much in common. It's just unbelievable.
Ed. Well, I wish you well with your mom. Yeah. I mean, I'm in Fort Lauderdale now, is where I live. I like golf. I do my things, and of course, I'm a hard worker. But I feel for you. And dementia and Alzheimer's is really hard on the family. And that is what, as it gets progressed and it gets worse and worse. My dad was okay as well, but then he would start wandering, and we all stuck together. I come from a big family, Ed. We had 5 brothers and sisters, and we stuck together, and we all took turns. My sister up in upstate New York kept my dad, and we all would go up there for weeks at a time and help and do things. And my mom lived up there with him at that time, although they still have their house. And my mom still lives here. She still lives in the same house they bought in 1983 here in Palm Bay, Florida.
Yeah, it's amazing. We just have so much in common. But now, okay, so you come out of the Coast Guard, right? And you must have been involved in smaller, like more petty crimes before you got into this well-cased jewelry store.
Yes,
Yeah.
Actually, Ed, I started bookmaking.
Okay.
I was actually on Queens Boulevard, Union Turnpike, off of Queens Boulevard in Queens. I was muscle for a card game and like a bookmaking operation, and I'd help bartend. And I learned the bookmaking trade down there by, I'll never forget, a Jewish guy named Mac the bookie. Mac was what they call a layoff guy, Ed. He would take all the action from all the big bookies in New York, and like they would negotiate a line. And now a dime is $1,000 bet, nickel's $500. Now I would take those bets over, at the bar and over the phone. Well, Mac would take bets from other bookies. Because a bookie's job, Ed, a lot of people don't understand this. If they take $100,000 on a game, they want $50,000 on one team and $50,000 on the other team, and they make their 10% VIG. Their interest, VIG, is it called in bookie. Well, if they have $100,000 on one side and $50,000 on the other side, they become a gambler if they just keep it. Well, they would go to a guy like Mac bookie would take that layoff action and negotiate the line with that guy, so it would be roughly in a way that it was perfect for everybody. And Mac, they said, had so much money when he died, they said the economy went down.
I believe that. Okay. So you were doing bookie stuff like that, and loan sharking, and bodyguard,
robberies, warehouses, little stuff. But yeah. I owned my own pizzeria, Ed, and that was a cover, and I ended up burning it. But I owned a pizzeria, and I ended up doing hot diamonds out the back. Funny, people would come in for a pizza on a Friday and say, I don't have any.
Where was the pizzeria, in Brooklyn?
No, my pizzeria was down here in Florida. I moved. Okay. I got married in Brooklyn, Ed. I got married in Regina Pace's church in Brooklyn, and my wedding reception was at the Oriental Manor, very well known on 18th Avenue and 86th Street. And I got married there, and then that was my reception. It was a big gangster wedding. And then after that, I moved to Florida in 87, and I opened up shop down here. Opened the pizzeria and started, Florida was what they call an open city. And it still is, if you want to call it that. But I don't get into that, of course.
No, I know, but you got to love it, though. Guy comes in for a slice of pizza. We got no pizza. Get out of here.
Yeah, that's what it was. Coming on Friday nights, I had good pizza. Come up, get out of here. I'm busy. I don't have any. It was Friday night pizza, it was good pizza. And I opened the pizzeria in North Lauderdale, Florida.
Okay. You gotta love it, man. Okay.
In the book, too.
Okay. The book is called Gangster-Redemption, right?
Book, I don't mean this to keep saying that. The book, they actually just made a screenplay.
Oh, really?
There's a screenplay made on the book, and they're talking about it being like the next Goodfellas, but with a better ending. A lot of those gangster movies all have bad endings. Someone ratting, somebody's going to jail, someone's getting killed. This is, the ending is my program and what I do for young people and help them, and the positive stuff that can come from it. So it's going to be the whole book opens with my torture, and then it goes back to my childhood in the Bronx, Ed. And of course, I'm going to send you a book. So
great, I love free books. Now, when I have a yard sale every week, man. I sell all the free books I get. But send an autograph too. I get an extra buck. But now, you do like the last jewelry store robbery, right? Do you have an idea that the heat's coming down on you, that they're about to bust you?
What happened, Ed? Yeah. A guy got out of the flex cuffs. We put them in, the wire cuffs, the flex cuffs they're called. They're really wire ties. So a guy got out and started shooting. Actually, what happened was, we didn't know this, but about 2 weeks before my robbery, an air-conditioned unit was stolen off the roof of the building. And now the building is attached to other stores, it's like a plaza.
Right.
So we didn't know that, of course. Well, the neighbor just heard some commotion, not anything big, but came and cupped their hand around the glass, Ed, and looked in and saw the robbery. But we just jumped in the car, had to run.
Right.
Well, while we were running out the front door, the owner got out of his foot cuffs and started shooting at us. A bullet went right through my head. Just skimmed the top of my head.
Right.
And it went into my partner's arm. But we made it. This was in Pennsylvania. We raced to Brooklyn, and we got patched up. And back then, again, there's nothing about airlines. We got the guy a ticket to to Florida, and he was patched up in Florida. And then I ended up staying up there for a few more days, got the car fixed. It was a rent-a-car.
Right.
But being the car was rented from Florida, they didn't have the New York registration in the left corner of the windshield. You know the way they do that in New York.
Okay.
I don't know if they still do that, Ed, but they would put the registration against the windshield, and they didn't have that. So we ended up having the wise guys, we knew the places to go, and they fixed the windshield. There's a bullet hole right in the middle. It's amazing how I drove the whole way from Pennsylvania with a bullet hole right in the middle, and how I had to get through tolls. And again, the book is just the book is 100% true, Ed, and I tell it all. So it's a really good read.
Okay, wait. So you get back to New York. How'd you get busted, though?
Well, again, I didn't know this at the time, Ed. The FBI would flood the area when there was a robbery of an MO like mine.
Right.
And they flooded the area, and they ended up going to a store that the person in that store, I didn't rob it, I was casing it, and I was looking for a ring for $10,000. That was my spiel. And anyway, the lady in the store ended up getting my license plate number because she wanted to give me a better deal. Ah. Well, when the FBI went into her store, she goes, "Oh, there was a nice gentleman here in his suit, and here's his license plate." Well, they look at the license plate. It still is not mine. I had a neighbor in Florida rent the car, and my neighbor at the time was 350 pounds. So it was like, that's not him. But, Ed, I was the co-driver, so in case I had to be legit. And when they looked me up, Ed, they found out association with organized crime. And that's when it came, and then that's when they figured it all out. And they put together, they had some film, but not good stuff. Then they had like a palm print. They ended up putting it together. Like I said, great police work by the FBI.
Okay, so then how do they come get you? You're lying in bed and they come banging down the door?
Oh, great story. I'm in Florida. It's about 5 o'clock on a Monday, and my wife goes out that day, and this is the sad part. I had a 15-month-old baby and a 6-year-old son, and again, I get out of prison when my daughter was 13 and my son was 18. So that's why I do what I do, because I really don't want people to go through what I had to go through. And it's not right what I did, Ed. I was just a bad guy at that time. But so I go in, Ed, and my wife says to me during the day, and it's funny because I had a 9-foot bar in my house, and we got bookmaking material on it. We got a little weed on it, a little coke or whatever it was. And my wife goes out that day, and she says, I thought somebody was following me. Well, I had a good suspicion, so I just, whatever you want to call it, an intuition. Anyway, at 5 o'clock at night, she goes out of the house, and I have a bunch of guys over the house. She walks out to go get the mail, and I hear her say, "They're coming!" Right. And I jump up, Ed, and the door flies in. The guys in the ninja suits pointing guns at me. I turn around to go out the back door, and they're coming through the patio, ninja suits. I put up my hands, of course. They put me down. It was the marshals and the FBI and whoever else, fugitive apprehension. They ended up the helicopter over the house, the works. And Ed, again, I have nothing bad to say. They treated me. They put me on the curb. They searched the house. They didn't touch any of that other stuff, Ed.
Oh, really?
They had a warrant for diamonds, firearms, which I didn't have a firearm because I used a BB gun. That's how I beat my life sentence. I wasn't shooting anybody. There was no one was getting shot in a robbery during this. Anyway, so they were looking for guns, cash, or jewels, or like a jewelry scale.
Right.
There was none of that there. They actually even let me I had $3,000 in my pocket. They let me give that and my watch and everything else to my wife. And they took me down to Miami and they processed me in what they call FEC, Federal Detention Center in Miami, Florida, in Overtown. It was the Federal Detention Center there in Miami. So they took me from Fort Lauderdale to Miami to process me. And that's why my number, and it's funny because on my Wikipedia is my number. And I was wondering how they got my number. How did they put your number on there? But anyway, it's 5224004 is my federal prison number.
Okay, now, was this your first bust?
No. That's why they got me. I once got caught with $35,000 cash, about 5 grams of cocaine.
Okay.
I did drugs, Ed. I did every drug in the world, but I wasn't a drug addict. I wasn't like, every minute, every day. I wasn't hyped or anything like that. But I was going to Atlantic City, Ed.
Okay.
I was on my way to Atlantic City, and a cop stops me in December. I remember, 94 it was. I think 94. And one cop opens up the glove compartment, and I have a partner in the right seat, and I have a rent-a-car. I'm coming back from New York. He opens up the glove compartment, and $35,000 falls out. He like, what is this? I said, I sold my Corvette. Well, do you have a receipt? No, I just sold it. A guy wanted it, I sold it. Of course, they find 5 grams of cocaine. They think they got a drug dealer at. I was never a drug dealer. And I end up going to Atlantic County Jail, call my lawyer at 1 in the morning. He knows the drill. Gets me out the next day. It's funny because I was a high roller, Ed, and I had a limousine from the Taj Mahal come pick me up at the Atlantic County Jail.
Okay. Hey, who was your lawyer back in those days?
The what?
Who was your lawyer?
Back then there was a lawyer. I had a lawyer named Keith Seltzer, who ended up not being right.
Okay.
But that's another story. All they want is money.
Yeah.
And it's sad because all they do is want to get you for every dime they can.
But once you leave New York, you never find a lawyer like that again, man. Everywhere else in the country they suck.
It's funny, Ed. You look back at the times and everything that happened to me, and people ask me every day, there's a lot of sad parts of my life, of course, like everybody, but losing your kids and not being there, and all due to my fault. Again, all due to my fault. But, Ed, things have changed. The time with, our security issues going on. You're a private investigator today. I don't care. You can look me up, do whatever you're going to want, ask me any question. Whatever you get, you get. It is what it is. I'm that kind of a speaker, as you well know by now, and I just think the times have changed so much, in some good and some bad, obviously. And I just don't think the lawyers today. Florida is inundated with lawyers to the point you can't do anything yourself today without a lawyer.
Yeah.
And so that hurts people and hurts the average guy.
Okay, so now you got this big case. Now you got arrested by ninja FBI agents, and this had to be.
No, it was big. It was in the papers. Organized crime involved in jewel ring and all that.
So now you're saying, okay, this is the big one I've been waiting for. I knew this was going to happen sooner or later. They got me. So now, did you get out on bail? What happened with that?
No. Actually, my dad tried to put up everything he owned.
Right.
And my dad stuck with me the whole way. Never liked what I did, Ed. Never knew it exactly. Didn't like it. But he, stuck with me every way, just like a New Yorker would. And, they're there for you. Didn't like it, but he visited me in every prison, did everything he can. No bail. I had no bail at all. And I ended up doing the waiting, and I ended up I was facing life. I ended up beating the gun charge in a preliminary hearing. They ended up dropping the gun charge, which was a life sentence. It's called a 924C. So I ended up beating that, and I ended up not having to go to trial. They offered me 12 years to run concurrent if I don't go to trial.
All right.
So instead of running wild or consecutive, then that's 48 years, I would have had to be tried in 4 different federal districts, Ed. I'm one of the guys who had the most different convictions from different federal districts because I was indicted in the Middle District of Florida, the Southern District of Georgia, the Eastern District of Pennsylvania, District of Maryland, all different federal districts. So I could have taken every one of them to trial, and everyone, whether I beat one or not, I wasn't going to beat them all. So I ended up going and taking the 4 12-year sentences. And I was the only guy who was happy in prison with a 12-year sentence.
So now, you never went to trial. You made a deal, and
I didn't make a deal.
Yeah,
you make it sound like no, I didn't. I took the plea. The
right.
plea is not a deal. I didn't get any time. I didn't rat. I don't believe in that. I still tell. That's why I have such credibility with the kids, and the people, even the courts. And that's a great story, and I'll tell you how I got in the court system in a minute. But no, I ended up getting the plea.
I was hesitant about using the word deal, but that's what I meant, though. You took the plea. Okay, I apologize. Okay.
No, just let the audience know what it is.
Okay, but now you're already in there. Okay, I guess they had you in some kind of detention center, right? But now you're going to prison. Do you make arrangements through your friends? Hey, I got to go here. Who do you know in there? What'd you do then?
Great story, Ed. Like you said, I'm going to the big house. I didn't rat, so I'm not getting any special treatment. Right. I'm going to a maximum security prison. Well, I'm at the time up in Pennsylvania, because all my cases were out of Pennsylvania, out of Eastern District of Pennsylvania. Well, Ed, really funny, because I go up through Lewisburg Penitentiary, and the cop up there, they assign me, the Federal Bureau of Prisons puts me in USP Atlanta, United States Penitentiary Atlanta, the worst prison in the United States. You could look it up. Okay. So anyway, I go into Lewisburg, getting transferred. I've been on Con Air 16 times, Ed, wow. The plane, Con Air. But anyway, I go there, and one of the guards there goes, "Wow, who did you piss off?" I go, "What do you mean?" He goes, "You're going to USP Atlanta. You're a white boy going to Atlanta. What did you do? Who did you mess with?" Well, let me put it this way. I get to Atlanta, and it is a zoo. When I say a zoo. But I had a note that I brought with me, and I'll even tell the audience, it's called suitcasing something, Ed. It's where you hide a note in your rectum, and you put it in a little... wrapped in cellophane, so you can do things like that. Believe me, we'll get into that in a minute in the inside. I talked about that on CNN, and it went viral, and actually Jimmy Fallon had me on The Tonight Show, or my clip on The Tonight Show, talking when I was on CNN with Brooke Baldwin, and you should see her face. If you look it up on YouTube, you can type in, anybody could type in Brooke Baldwin suitcasing, and they'll see it's hilarious, her face reaction. But anyway, I had a note, Ed, from some wise guys to a guy named Vic Arena. Well, Vic Arena was the head of the Colombo mob. He had a war during 92 with the Persico. It's called the Colombo Wars in 1992. And I was in prison with a lot of wise guys, and of course, they all knew who I was from the Gambinos, and they knew I was a stand-up guy, that I did not rat, and I went to prison alone. Well, I go to Atlanta, and there's a lot of wise guys. I used to walk the track with Nicky Scarfo. You probably heard that name. He killed 30 people, federal judge, crazy Nicky Scarfo, head of the Philly mob. Funny stories there.
Is he still alive now?
Who?
Is he still alive?
Yes, he is, and I think he's still there, still in Atlanta.
Wow.
He's got to be 88 maybe now. I don't know what he was. Back then this is maybe... Wow, I'm talking 97, so we're talking about 17 years ago.
Wow.
18 years ago, and he was about 65, 67 then, so he has to be in his mid-80s or high 80s. Well, anyway, Ed, it's funny because I get there, and I got a kite or note,
okay.
And I asked one kid, I get to the block I'm on, I'm in Atlanta, I'm in the A unit, and I said to the guy, "Hey, I'm looking for Nicky's, I'm on A1. I said, "I'm looking for Vic Arena." The guy goes, "Who are you?" I said, "I got a kite for him, a note for him." And the guy goes, "Okay, he's on the yard. You can go see him exactly where he'll be." So I go out there. I give Vic the note. He reads it. He made a few calls or whatever. Calls me out. Says, "Kid, you're with us." And he ends up giving me a big bag of commissary, and the sad part of prisons, Ed, is most of these young kids are going to get sucked into a gang. And their life is nothing after that. But I was lucky enough to, one, be smart, be a stand-up guy, have credibility from the streets and people from the streets who actually said, hey, this guy's all right. And I was with Vic Amuso, who was the head of the Genovese. I was, Lucchese family. Vic Amuso was the head of the Lucchese family. And I was with Mark Ryder and bunch of guys in prison that were all very respected, wise guys, very high up, wise guys. So I was known. And I didn't get into the politics of prison because there's a lot of that, believe it or not, Ed.
Gotcha, Larry. We've got to take a hard break right now, okay, for 5 minutes. We'll be right back after this with more of Larry Lawton, Gangster-Redemption. And his guy knows gangster royalty. These are really big names. We'll be right back after this with more of the Opperman Report with Larry Lawton, Gangster-Redemption. And now a word from our sponsors. We are listener-sponsored, and we appreciate your donations. If you like the show, please visit OppermanReport.com and click on the donate button. Or you can donate directly through PayPal at OppermanReport@gmail.com. We have Mike Ray of InfinityHomePlans.com. He's the host of Parlay over at CJ Mars Radio, Thursday evenings, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. If you need custom home designs, stock plans, or 3D work, he's your one-stop shop for home design and drafting needs. Mike Gray at InfinityHomePlans.com. At InfinityHomePlans.com. If you're looking for essential oils, stop by and check out Essential Tanning on Facebook. She is Young Living Essential Oils Independent Distributor. She is 100% therapeutic oil that helps support the body's natural functions. Visit the website posted on Essential Tanning to see the current deals, or email at jocotanning, JOCATAMI@yahoo.com, or call 352-239-8546. 352-239-8546. Hey, if you need a private investigator, go to my website, emailreviewer.com. We offer asset searches, locates, skip tracing, adoption investigations, online infidelity investigations. We can recover deleted text messages from a cell phone or trace an email to online dating websites to catch people cheating. That's emailrevealer.com, or you can call 800-572-9762. 800-572-9762, or emailrevealer.com, my website. Pacific West Bamboo. Get your premier source for construction and craft-grade bamboo poles. They're announcing their latest project with EcoHead Event Sanitation, making bamboo composting bathrooms and porta-potties. Their first display will be at the Lucidity Festival in Santa Ynez, California, April 11th to the 13th. Come by and say hi and see what you can build with them. Contact them for any kind of event planning, display building. If you need construction grade or craft grade bamboo products, call Amanda at 503-839-8126, 503-839-8126, or visit PacificWestBamboo.com, their brand new website. We're also sponsored by the New World Mexican Community. This is a rural Mexican craft room cooperative. They're traditional makers of fine handcrafted, authentic jewelry, beautiful stone mosaics, Pacific Blue Abilene Vineyard. They have wonderful love letters written to their men in the United States, begging them to return to their families in Mexico. But they've written a new book, and it's it's about a young girl that falls in love with a rodeo bullfighter and runs off with him without telling her family. It's a beautiful love story called Azuquina Part 1, Azuquina to the Rodeo. You can find their books and jewelry by clicking on their banner ad at OppermanReport.com or by Googling New World Mexican Community. You can also promote your business or website right here and have your ad played all over the world 7 days a week by emailing OppermanReport@gmail.com or calling 800-572-9762. Okay, welcome back to the Opperman Report. I am your host, Private Investigator Ed Opperman. This show is brought to you by Audible.com. Go to audibletrial.com/Opperman Report. Sign up for free. Get yourself a free audiobook. We're here tonight with Larry Lawton, author of the book Gangster-Redemption. And he runs this program called a reality check program to keep kids out of prison and to keep kids on the straight path. Not scared straight. Don't get mad at me, Larry. Okay. But, to keep kids on the straight and narrow. So now, Larry, even with, you had a really good, nice entry there into prison, right? So that if you had all these guys in there waiting for you to take care of you and stuff like that, how'd you wind up getting tortured by the guards?
Well, great questions. I'll tell you what, you got great questions too, Ed. Well, what happened was I did a lot of law work, and gotcha. I ended up, I started the law work before I even got to Atlanta on my own case and understanding the law, and I dove into it. Whatever I do, Ed, I dive into it 1,000%. But anyway, as I'm in the prison system, prison kills 3 of my friends medically. Literally, there's deaths in prison that you have no idea. I'll be talking about it on CNN tomorrow because I will say it like it is. Good. There's guards that kill people. There's drug dealing. There's so much going on in prisons. Well, the prison literally killed 3 of my friends, and there's a great article I wrote in. I'll get the name of the report, and it went viral, and it was about the corruption and the guards, due to lack of medical care, killing friends of mine, literally. Well, I wrote articles, and they didn't like that. Put it this way, the prison system didn't like it. They tried to shut me up. Gotcha. And they threw me in holes. They do what they call diesel therapy, which is they transfer you from prison to prison, lose your paperwork, lose your property, doing everything you can. And I fought the prison system in every single way imaginable. I even fought the system and got to the point where I ended up getting thrown in the hole, Ed, one time for masturbating. Yes, you said that right. You heard it. What man doesn't masturbate in prison? Actually, doctors tell you it's actually good for you and help you when you hit over 40. Well, I'm in my cell alone, and I'm masturbating at 1 a.m, and see me, I don't know how, and they throw me in the hole for that. I ended up suing the prison for it, and they ended up transferring me so many times, so I got time barred in the system, and I couldn't continue the lawsuit. So let me just put it this way. When you fight the prison system, and, it's funny, Ed, I was on, I think I was on MSNBC yesterday or today, but whatever it was, and my mom is actually listening to me, and my mom says, son, be careful because they're going to get you. She's so worried because she see her get letters from pencil. When you're writing a pencil, they know you're in the hole, and the hole is special housing unit. Special housing unit is SHU, and so that she knew. So she still worries about me. My mom will be 83. I think 83. Yeah, 83, or she is 83, and she still worries about me, and because I'm willing to say it like it is, Ed.
Well, you know as well as I do that a lot of these correction officers, they like to fight. They like to fight, man. And even when they're off duty, they're driving around looking for trouble. You don't worry about these guys coming after you now?
A lot of people ask me that, and no, I'm a pretty good fighter myself, Ed.
Yeah,
but not just that. Not just that, though, Ed, you're right. They used to have fight games in prison.
Yeah.
They would set 2 inmates up and have a fight in the cell and almost kill each other to bet on it. There were a lot. And you're right. They get off. I just think the whole system's broke on how they hire people, how they, train them. And I'm not saying, listen, Ed, there's a lot of bad people in prison. Let's face it. Those guys that escaped, I don't want them living near my house or living near my mother or living near you or, anybody. There's a lot of people like that. But there's also a lot of good people in prison, Ed. There's a lot of people that made mistakes and need a second chance. And I often tell that to people, and they go, well, how do you know? I said, look, if you would have looked at me, you'd say he's a waste. And look at now. My program is not only for kids going to prison, Ed. It's for good kids. It's an eye-opener that what could happen to you if you keep making bad choices, you end up like Larry Lawton. And that is what the program is based on. It's called a consequence-based program. It's called the reality check program. But So yes, I do sometimes look over my back, if you want to say that. And I'm Ed, we're both New Yorkers. You know, we could feel trouble. You know, it's just the way we are, Ed.
But also, too, Larry Lawton, you know, if you didn't get into this whole thing with the reality check program, a guy like you could go into any kind of business. You could go on a hardware store, and a year later you own a chain. You know, obviously because you're that kind of guy. So here you got a guy who is a valuable asset to society. Okay, in the long run. So we can't write people like this off. You know what I'm saying? You know,
Ed, you know, you make a great point. I was on a TV show with actually the lieutenant governor of the state of Florida, who at the time he was, and his name is Jeff Kottkamp. Very, very nice guy and very, very smart. And, you know, we were talking about my program, and he looked at it, and he said, Larry, I started the Children and Youth Program cabinet in the state of Florida. This is the best program I've ever seen in all my life. This is from the lieutenant governor. It's in writing, and you can listen to it on TV. But anyway, Ed, he said a great thing, and what you just said really clicked on me. You know, when we take a person like myself or whoever made mistakes and we can rehabilitate him, we're not only saving the money of him in prison, which costs about $28,000 a year. I'm now paying taxes. I'm going to restaurants. I am supporting the community. I am buying cars. I am, doing whatever it is, writing a book, doing stuff. You know, you could be such an asset to the community and not just becoming a star or any of that nature, Ed. I don't look at things like that. I look at things like you take any young man who gets out of prison and we put a little effort into rehabilitation, and that man is now a productive member of society, supporting the stores that are around him, supporting maybe kids or family and working hard. And it's a big snowball effect. And actually, the lieutenant governor told me that, Ed.
Again, back to the conditions in prison, okay? That are going. A couple of questions. Now, one is these guys that you were in there with, you know, Nicky Scarf and these guys. Do you ever think, oh man, like right now they're in there. Right now they're waiting online to use a phone, or they're waiting online to use a shower, or they're going through this crap. Do you ever like contact them, send them an email, or not an email, a letter or something like that?
Ed,
yeah.
Ed, I speak to people in prison weekly.
Okay.
I have friends of mine that I'm helping. A man who was in prison with me named Paul Tellini.
Okay.
And Paul got out of prison after he went in 1989. And he got sent to a halfway house last, I think it was December. And he was in prison for 25 years. Not a murderer, drugs.
Yeah.
Great guy, and I'm helping him. And I get letters, Ed, and I read them at my programs from people who are so good that they're trying to help people not go to prison because they know the negativity of it. And, you know, Ed, I started something which I'd like to talk about for a second. Sure. It's called Reality Check Subscription Service. And we're doing this, it'll be launching in about a month. And we're giving videos to families. Every 3 days, I have a former judge and a criminal defense attorney. I have 2 psychologists. I have myself. And I have a 31-year law enforcement officer, and you can look it up. It's called the Reality Check Subscription Service. What it does is that we're giving videos to families for $10 a month. We're doing it so cheap. Someone says, why are you doing it so cheap? I said, listen, it's 2 cups of Starbucks coffee. I want everyone to be able to afford it where they can get information to help their kid. Meaning this, if your kid is cutting, eating, you know, like with a knife in the wrist. That's kind of common. New texting tips. What do you do if your kid is arrested? What do you do if you find a knife in your kid's drawer? So we're really making this site for parents. New drugs on the market. Down here in Florida, they have a thing called flakka. Flakka is killing kids. 17 young people died this year from a new synthetic drug called flakka. So we're opening people's eyes and giving them videos every 3 days. Believe that. And they can even buy my video. My video is $35. If they join the subscription service, they get the video too. So we're doing so much to try to give back to society and do it the right way, Ed. And maybe I could come back on and really talk about that sometime.
Well, let me ask you this. Let's say I got a case coming up, right? And I think I'm going to have to go do some time. And I don't have these friends to write a note for me that I could stick up my butt. Okay, can I go?
Suitcasing, Ed. Your audience just learned a new word. Suitcasing.
Suitcasing. Now, can I? We call it keystring, but the thing is,
okay. Yeah.
Can I go to Larry Lawton and say, "Hey, Larry, man, I need you to pave the way for me into this entrance. What can you do for me?"
You mean like in prison?
Yeah, like right now, because there's lawyers that can do that for you. There's lawyers.
Yes. No. They're not. I have what they call prison consulting. If a kid is going to get arrested, and he's going to prison, or a young man, or a 30-year-old, whoever it is, if they go on our website, Lawton 911, that's it, Lawton, LAWTON 911.com. You can go to programs and what we do, and yes, I. First of all, I testify at sentencings all the time.
Oh, really?
I even testify for the Innocent Project, but I'll testify on why we need either a less sentence or more rehabilitation or what kind of prison. And then once you are sentenced, if you're going to a prison, I give advice on one, to family and the person going, because you have to use both ends of that, Ed. And I tell the family what to expect, what's going to happen, transfers, how classification works, how a person can then try to get to a better prison closer to home, how the grievance system works, and what the family can do also to help that person, because a lot of family don't know, Ed. So, yes, I do that.
Okay, gotcha. I understand. Very good. Okay. Now, what do you think about this situation right now when you hear about this case going on in Dannemora? Were you ever up in any upstate New York prisons? No.
No, I was on Rikers Island, but no, not in Dannemora or Clint or any of those. I'll tell you what I think about it.
Go ahead.
First of all, not one bit has shocked me. I've been on TV every day for the last 3 weeks on one network or another, whether, like you said, it was Fox or CNN or NBC or the Today Show, whatever it was. And Ed, I will tell you right now, they have not even touched the tip of the iceberg, what goes on. I tell people this all the time, Ed. There are more drugs in prison on the street. And what I mean by that, of course not volume, but if you wanted heroin, Ed, I don't know if you would know where to get it, but if you were even a heroin addict, you'd say, okay, I got to go down to the corner, I got to make a right, and I got to go 3 blocks, and Johnny's got it in his place. Or I want cocaine, I got to go here. In prison, Ed, you can get heroin in the 3rd cell to the corner. You want cocaine, 2 cells down. You want alcohol, next tier up, over in the corner cell. You want pot. You want acid. You want Molly. You want speed. All of that is rampant in prison. In fact, Ed, there are more overdoses from heroin in prison than anything. And so I think they're just hitting the tip of the iceberg in most prisons. And this is every prison I went to, Ed, it had a serious drug problem, serious issues. I mean, people ask me, did you think of escape? Obviously, yes. Everybody can look and say, I think I can get out of here. How's how I would do it? If I had money, if I had connections on the street, what I can do. My point being, Ed, is our system is broke, and I think it really needs to be fixed from the ground up. And what I mean by that is, first of all, we don't need to be putting a pot dealer with a murderer. That's done every day. And you're only making that kid dangerous and maybe getting killed, maybe having to kill somebody to protect himself from a rape and that happens. Did you know, Ed, last year there were 216,000 rapes in prison. That was what was reported, Ed. 216,000 rapes reported. I say there was 1 million rapes in prison last year. So I think our system is broke. I think they're going to find out more, not only sex with guards and beatings, and you just said they even have a hyped up attitude on the street. Could you imagine them in prison when they're unchecked? And there are blind spots. I don't know why. There should never be a blind spot in prison, not when cameras are $20 or whatever it is. But our system is broke, and it needs to be fixed. And I don't know if anybody in the state of New York or Federal Bureau system really wants to fix it. You know, they all do the grandstand on TV and everything else about, oh, we're going to do this. You know, in 1 month, I can go to any prison and get whatever dope you want. You know, it's just, and I can go on about abuses going on in prison, drugs going on. We had guards bringing the drugs in prison right to the cell.
Well, yeah,
there was one guy from New York, a Latin king, who was making $10,000 a month being a drug dealer in prison, Ed. So I witnessed it. I lived it.
Okay, so most people, though, they watch TV, they think that, well, these drugs are coming in because the guy's girlfriend comes and she sticks it up her butt, suitcases it, as you say, and then somehow gets it over to him and a kiss, some kind of craziness like this, you know. How do these drugs really get into prisons, Larry?
Well, okay, there's two ways. It does come that way. It's called visits. They call a girl will put heroin in a Kotex, you know, that's the brand, or, you know, tampon, but that little plastic, and insert it in there, and it all wrapped up right, and then insert it in the guy's rectum during the contact visit. That's one. But that's small amounts, Ed. The real amounts, the dope coming in prison is done by staff, by guards. Straight out, I will tell it as it is. Guards bring dope in prison. They make $35,000 when I watched a guy give a guard $1,000. Now, this is in 1998. $1,000 every week this guard was making to bring in a package. The package was delivered to a P.O. box. The money was delivered to a different P.O. box. And the guard would pick up the money, pick up the dope, and literally, and I saw it, bring the dope into the guy's cell, leave it on his counter, and walk out.
Yeah.
Open up the package, and in there would be not only marijuana, but inside the marijuana would be heroin. Now, heroin in prison, let me tell you how rampant it is. When you have a trade, Ed, when a gram of heroin on the street goes for about $100. In prison, that goes for $1,300. And there's people with money in prison. Not only that, Ed, you know, the Federal Bureau of Prisons now, since when I was in there, I think it was 2003, 2004, there's no smoking. There's no cigarettes.
Okay.
Did you know, Ed?
Yeah.
Ed, a carton of cigarettes will go for $2,000.
Wow.
A carton of cigarettes. Because what they'll do is they'll take one pack of cigarettes, Ed, and they will take one cigarette and make 5 pin little joints, or you want to call them, of tobacco, because smoking is such an addictive thing, and people come in and they can't break that habit, and they will pay. They will pay $10 for what they call a pin joint. So one guy might make $50 off one cigarette. So I watched this when I was in 7.5 years ago, 8 years. Now, things haven't changed. I'm dealing with guys in prison every weekend. I speak to people. I get letters, licensed guys, good friends. So I know what's going on in there, and it hasn't changed. It's only gotten worse. And our system needs total revamp. And there's ways to do it, Ed. There are ways to do it.
And what about cell phones in prison?
Oh, you know, it's amazing. I mean, if you got caught with a cell phone in prison, it's actually an escape charge for the inmate.
I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah, they actually will give you an escape charge for it. But it's in there, and guys are just doing it to connect with their girls a lot of times, not for escape, so to speak, but they're just for doing it. And, you know, guards come and they think of it as, you know, if I was in here. And here's the problem, Ed. As much as prison is a bad place, there are men in prison, Ed, who are innocent. And that is sad. I know a friend of mine, and I know him well now. He went to prison at 19 years old or 20 years old. He was a blonde-haired kid. He did 27 years in prison, Ed, and he did not do the crime. And they proved it, of course. And the investigator on the crime was sleeping with the witnesses, and it was a whole mess up. Anyway, it's a big case. If you look it up, it's Bill Dillon, William Dillon, or Bill Dillon in Florida. He was 20 years old. His first day in Florida State Prison. It's up in Rayford. It's in Florida, in Rayford, the city You ready for it? But it's called Florida State Prison. He was gang raped by 5 guys. They took a pillowcase and put it over his head and gang raped him. And, I look at him and I can imagine. It was terrible for me, Ed, when I was in there and I knew I did the crime. Right. Could you imagine being in there and knowing you didn't do it? It boggles my mind. And listen to this, Ed. They only gave that guy $1.3 million, and they had to fight through Congress to get it. Up in the state of Florida is crazy. And that guy should have got $27 million. He should have got $1 million a year. Can you imagine being taken away from 20 years old to 47 years old, and you didn't do it, and they want to give you $1 million? Are they crazy? It boggles my mind.
Not even minimum wage, you know?
Oh, yeah. Ed, when I look at that and I look at how heartless people can be, I wonder what's happening with our society.
Now, when you were on Rikers, what year were you on Rikers?
Wow, I was in Rikers in 1976, 77, okay. 78.
Now, back in those days, wait a second, back in those days.
C-74?
They would steal other guys' ID cards. If a guy was about to get out, the bigger guys would steal his ID and switch IDs with him. And the guys are doing prison in there under a different name.
Ed, back when I was in there, and this is 78, C-74, C-76, it was a zoo. First of all, it was the biggest prison in the country at the time. I heard it got a lot better, and, what better, but anyway. And just the zoo of it all, the rats down near the pier. I used to empty trash. Go out to, oh my God, the water rats from the East River were just huge, and the East River, I'm sure, and it was just crazy. Rikers Island was a zoo, it still is, but I was in Atlantic County Jail, I was in Dade County Jail, which is probably worse than Rikers. I was in Seminole County Jail. I was in a lot of different jails around the country, but there's nothing that's worse than the United States Federal Bureau of Prisons maximum security prison. Nothing worse.
So now
and here's why, Ed.
Yeah, go ahead.
If you're in a state prison and you have an issue, overcrowding, wrong food, what do? You file what they call a habeas corpus. You know what they are, of course. You file that to the federal court system, and they will put an injunction on a prison to fix something or do something. Well, when you're in the federal system, what do? They don't want to hear anything against the federal government, And our Federal Bureau of Prisons is the biggest prison system in the world. I don't know if you knew that as well.
Of course.
It's just out of control.
Well, how many people are in prison right now in the United States?
I think it's 2.3 million. Nice. I think it's 0.39, something like that.
Okay. And every prison you've been into, every jail you've been into, they all have rats coming right in your room there, right?
Are you talking about now? Wait, what are you talking about? The human rats or the?
No, the rats, vermin.
No. Certain prisons didn't have that. Okay, Ed. Some prisons didn't have that. The older prisons do. The older prisons. I got some funny stories about rats in prison. I was in a prison cell, and the door had an opening on the bottom, and the rats used to come in my cell.
Yeah.
Well, one time, I hear this, in my locker. Damn, there's rats eating my ramen noodle soups, So I open up the locker, and I look in there, Ed, can't find a rat. Close the locker, I go back to bed. I get up, I open the thing, it jumps on me. I scream, like a big baby. Anyway, the rat runs out of the thing. Another time, Ed, I used to try to catch the rat. I took they had like a round trash can in your cell. So what I would do, Ed, was I would take 2 pencils. I would cut the pencils to crisscross the pencils and put the garbage can upside down, like the lid down, and I'd put the 2 cross pencils to hold up one end. I would take a piece of the sheet and run it from the pencil to my bed, and I would put a little food right there, and if a rat went underneath, I would pull the pencil, and it would drop on the rat, and I would catch me a rat. Well, Ed, I used to do that, and sure enough, I would fall asleep. I'd get up, and the food is gone, and I didn't do anything. The rat must have knew when I fell asleep. Amazing.
Wow.
I'm telling you, I could tell you funny stories about rodents in prison that'll just forever. But they're there, and it's depending. The older prisons are. But Ed, I was in a place called Edgefield, South Carolina, where I was abused. It was a new prison, but it was the worst prison. Was the way they treated you and didn't care, and no medical care, and beat you, and do things to you that are just disgusting. And I don't think it's right. I think we're losing a whole entire. Don't even get me on all the subjects where I can go with prison.
No, we're going to take another break, but when talk about like the medical care when we get back.
It's flying by, Ed. Huh?
No, I know. Yeah, no. Listen, I knew. I saw you on TV. I said, "This is my guy." But guys, they get a little infection, then they lose an arm. They get a little infection, they lose an eye. Yeah. We'll get into that when we get back. Let's play some commercials. And also, I want to talk about cats in prison. Cats, these cats are wandering around.
Oh, no, we had cats in Atlanta.
Yeah.
They were scared of the rats, though. We had a rat named Big Ben. We'll talk about after the break.
And also, too, recipes. I want to hear all the cooking recipes you guys.
Oh, Jesus, Ed. You got more and more time. Okay.
Okay, man. We'll be right back after this. We're with Larry Lawton, man. Fascinating guy. Lived a life. This man lived a life, okay? And we have to respect that. Okay, we'll be right back after this with more of the Opperman Report and brought to you by Audible.com. Go to audibletrial.com. Okay. And now a word from our sponsors. We are listener-sponsored, and we appreciate your donations. If you like the show, please visit OppermanReport.com and click on the donate button. Or you can donate directly through PayPal at OppermanReport@gmail.com. We have Mike Ray of InfinityHomePlans.com. He's the host of Parlay over at CJ Mars Radio, Thursday evenings, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. If you need custom home designs, stock plans, or 3D work, he's your one-stop shop for home design and drafting needs. Mike Ray at InfinityHomePlans.com. At InfinityHomePlans.com. If you're looking for essential oils, stop by and check out Essentially Tammy on Facebook. She is Young Living Essential Oils Independent Distributor. These are 100% therapeutic grade oils. They help support the body's natural functions. You can visit her website posted on Essentially Tammy to see the current deals, or email at JockoTammy, JOCA.com, or call 352-239-8546. 352-239-8546. Hey, if you need a private investigator, go to my website, emailrevealer.com. We offer asset searches, locates, skip tracing, adoption investigations, online infidelity investigations. You can recover deleted text messages from a cell phone or trace an email to online dating websites to catch people cheating. That's emailrevealer.com, or you can call 800-572-9760. 800-572-9760, or email revealer.com, my website. Pacific West Bamboo. It's your premier source for construction, craft-grade bamboo poles. They're announcing their latest project with EcoHead Event Sanitation, making bamboo composting bathrooms and porta potties. Their first display will be at the Lucidity Festival in Santa Ynez, California, April 11th to the 13th. Come by and say hi and see what you can build with bamboo. Contact them for any kind of event planning, display building. If you need construction grade or craft grade bamboo products, call Amanda at 503-839-8126, 503-839-8126, or visit PacificWestBamboo.com, their brand new website. We're also sponsored by the New World Mexican Women. This is a rural Mexican craft women's cooperative They are traditional makers of fine handcrafted, authentic jewelry using beautiful stone mosaics and Pacific blue Abilene inlay. They have a wonderful book of love letters written to their men in the United States, begging them to return to their families in Mexico. But they've written a new book, and it's about a young girl that falls in love with a rodeo bull rider and runs off with him without telling her family. It's a beautiful love story called Azucena Part 1, Azucena to the Rodeo. You can find their books and jewelry by clicking on their banner ad at OppermanReport.com or by Googling New World Mexican Women. You can also promote your business or website right here and have your ad played all over the world 7 days a week by emailing OppermanReports@gmail.com or calling 800-572-9762. Welcome back to the Opperman Report. I'm your host, Private Investigator Ed Opperman. We're here tonight with Larry-Lawton, author of Gangster-Redemption. And I got to tell you, Larry, man, I'll listen to you talk. You know, this definitely is a gangster-redemption story, man. There's no doubt about that in my mind. Let me ask you this. Now, someone meets you today, right? They're an adult, a kid, whatever, but they have a case going on where they're facing serious time. How important is it for that person to be working on their own case rather than relying on some lawyer and PI to be helping them out?
Well, let me tell you how important that is. It saved my life, Ed. First of all, nobody knows your case better than you. You could have the best lawyer in the world, and it doesn't matter, the best PI, and I'm sure, I looked you up. You're very renowned for what you do, but I don't care what you do in life. There's nobody who knows your case better than you. I had a lawyer that wanted to really bilk me and do stuff until I learned the 924C law better than anybody. I was able to work my own case, ended up doing that pro se or myself, and I ended up using a public defender after I got rid of that lawyer because I didn't need the lawyer as much as I needed myself, knowing my own case once it got to a certain point. Obviously, getting a good lawyer is very important, getting a good PI to get the good research. I'm sure today when I consult on a case, Ed, I'll tell somebody, listen, get a good PI to investigate the cop that did the case and find out what's wrong with him or the case itself. I work with a former judge and lawyer now, 43-year, Glenn Rodham, an amazing guy, one of the best criminal defense attorneys in the state of Florida and probably the country. And as he says, the first thing I do is I depot a lawyer, I depot a cop on a case, find out what's wrong with him. Everybody has something. And all of a sudden, in a depot, he's going to say, did you ever bounce a check? Did you ever do something? Everybody has something. He says no. They find out they find out the real case, and you get him on the stand, and they say, well, you said no, so we already know you're a liar. Are you lying on this case? Or whatever else it is. But you need to know your own case better than anybody.
Very good. Very good advice. And also, too, hire a good paralegal.
Well, Ed, paralegals, to me, I learned, like you and I are both paralegals, we learned to shepherdize when we didn't have computers, when you had to do it by book. And you learn the right way, I call it. Now, I think today a paralegal can get into your case more. I just talked to a person who had a terrible lawyer, and I said, I'd rather hire a lawyer who's young and hungry than some big name. I won cases against major name guys, appeals, called ineffective assistance of counsel, against some big name attorneys, because they really don't do the work, and they just charge for their name. I'd rather get a young, hungry lawyer with myself, and before you know, you're doing better.
Okay, great. And now, again, back to the question about guys in prison who get a little tiny infection. That I got a friend of mine right now, Brittany Villanueva, who had a little tattoo infection. Now, you and me, we go to the doctor, get a little shot, they get some pills. What happens in prison when you get a little tiny infection.
Let me tell you, I watched a guy die from MRSA in prison because they didn't take care of him, and it got worse and worse and worse. And we all know what MRSA is. It's a staph infection that's in gyms, in close proximity, prisons and jails. And it's very bad. If you don't get the right antibiotic, Ed, you can die. And in prison, it starts out like a little spider bite, and that's what it looks like. And then it goes. This one man we know, before I left, this guy had his lower leg cut off, and I don't know what happened to him. I did see another guy die from an infection. Actually, it was from a tattoo infection as well.
Yeah.
But, you know, what happens in prison is, let me tell you why that happens, Ed. In prison, they usually contract medical care. So they rather keep putting the case off, and when you get out, you're now the society's problem. Now the taxpayer's paying for you instead of them doing the right thing by that inmate and the system, because it might cost them money. I watched a guy, you know, Ed, this is a sad story. You know, one of the first times I cried when I got out of prison, I was listening to a case, and it came up on the news, and then I read about it. A guy in a federal prison in Kentucky had cancer, and they let him die in his cell. He was crying for pain medication or something, and they were calling him the P word and everything else that goes along with it, and telling him he was a baby. And this man had cancer, and he died 3 weeks later. And, you know, I look at that because they don't care, Ed. They give people with cancer today morphine, and they let this man die in his cell like a dog. And, you know, I don't know where they come up with. Let me tell you how bad the system is, even. We have a jail up in Brevard County, Florida. They don't even give women sanitary pads.
Right.
Sanitary pads, Ed. Let him bleed on himself. How do you go home to your wife or your kid or your daughter and know that you were just there? A girl is asking you for a pad. I mean, not only do they feel bad because of cramps and everything else a poor woman's got to go through, now she can't get pads to clean herself. How unsanitary, how inhumane is that? It boggles my mind how they can even let that go on. It just boggles my mind that we're human beings.
Well, you know, Larry, real quick, you know, in Baltimore, when they had those the riots over the protests over Freddie Gray, in the women's cell there, they had like 20 women in these little holding cells with no running water. They would come by once a day with water on a cart to get and little Kool-Aid, little juice boxes, right? For these women. They didn't even know what their charges were. They couldn't even, this is just a holding cell before you're arraigned. They didn't even know what their charges were. They couldn't make phone calls out of there. The women, they had to take turns lying down to sleep in these little holding cells. And what they would do is they would come by with bread, slices of bread for their food, right? And instead of eating the bread, they were making pillows out of the bread so they wouldn't have to put their face on the filthy floors in these jails. That's what went on in Baltimore just this year. What goes,
you know, Ed,
yeah.
That's this year. I know about these because I deal with a jail. One of the worst jails I think in the country is up here in Brevard County. It's called the Brevard County Jail. And I get kids that come to my program. You know, people who get sentenced come to my program, Ed. I'm a court-ordered program, so what will happen is they'll get a sentence for, DUI or smoking pot, fighting in the street, whatever it is, petty theft. Or they might have spent 10 days in the county jail or whatever. I'm dealing with a case up there, Ed. They had a lady, and I was dealing with her. And her case, she was up there for 8 days. Her brother's a friend of mine, calls me up and says, Larry, you going up? I was actually testifying for Barry University, so I was up interviewing the inmate. And I go up there, and I said, sure, I'll check on her. I go down to the woman area. Now, this lady was a 48, 49-year-old, beautiful woman, a school teacher. And Ed, when I tell you what I saw, listen to this. She was disheveled. She had bed bugs all over, bites. Unbelievable. She was telling me what was going on. I walk upstairs. I walk into the, I guess, second in charge of the jail, whatever he is. And I said, this is disgusting. I go off. You know, they end up calling me back, and they started belittling me because I didn't go through the proper chain of command to come speak to them. This lady says, if I didn't do what I did, she would have been dead. Let me tell you what happened. She got out of that jail after 8 days, Ed. She goes to a doctor on the way down south, and the doctor said to her, "Who did this to you?" That's how bad she was. She had bites all over her. She had infections. She was, fever. It was just disgusting. And I look at this and I say, we are treating people like they're, I can't stand the commercials on TV with the dogs, the ASPCA, because I have such a heart. And we're treating you, like you just said, 1 year ago in Ferguson, they're treating people like this. I mean, do these people realize they go home and they have a wife, and your wife to be treated like that? That just boggles my mind, Ed.
Yeah, but people say, oh, it's club fed, 3 hots and a cot. Oh, we coddle these prisoners. They have cable TV. I don't have cable TV. I'd be better off in jail. That's what people say.
Ed, that makes me laugh.
Yeah.
Let me tell you something about Federal Bureau of Prisons. First of all, the Federal Bureau of Prisons has no weight. There's not one weight on a yard. There's no weight, no exercise equipment. There is no TVs in cells. There is none of that. Anybody who tells you that. Now, I do know that what they call a camp, but they still don't have that. They're not out doing that. But camps are, of course, nicer and, a little bit better. But you don't even come close. Anybody who's been to any prison understands that the Federal Bureau of Prison maximum security system is the worst prison system in the world. And I don't mean that in light, Ed.
No.
We have more people incarcerated in the United States than any other country in the world. And that's not per capita. That's straight numbers, Ed. We have more people of color in prison than China has people in prison. Now, people say, oh, they cut their hands off. That's not true, Ed. They grew up in a different kind of way. They grew up with shame. People don't want to do crimes or stuff because they don't want to dishonor their family. They grew up a little different. But don't tell me about how this system, we have 25% of the world's prison population and 5% of the population of the world. So figure that out.
Wait, and also, too, just think about probation, parole, programs. Wait, Larry, programs like you run. Your mandatory court-ordered programs. You got to go to anger management and DUI classes. That's a money pit, man, all that stuff, for people who can't afford it.
It's gotten to the point, it's an industry.
Yeah.
Private prisons now are such a billions of dollar industry, and the private medical health care in prisons. It's all a business. You can't tell me that any private prison doesn't want to keep the population up. Every person in there has money in their pocket. That's just a business decision.
Right. So you get out. Wait, you get out, and most of these probation violations, the parole violations, are little kind of paperwork crimes. They get you for forgery and defacing documents.
Not even that. It's called a technical violation.
Yeah.
Ed. What happens is a kid gets out of prison. He's got 3 years of paper. And he leaves the county. When I was on paper, Ed, I couldn't even leave an area. Like, there was literally a line. I go over this bridge in Indian River County from where I was, and I can go to jail. It's called a technical violation. I could have went over that bridge to go get a sandwich in a shop, and I get stopped over there, Ed. I go to prison. So they have... again, I think we said it, and I hope your listeners are understanding that. My program, Ed, is geared to keep these people out of a system that is very broke. And I keep good kids from getting in that car with the kids with drugs or getting in a car with a kid with a gun, because I don't want to see a family, one, get wrapped up into the whole system of the United States justice system. Because once they do, Ed, the good kid can be in that jail and they're not going to make it. And I'm sure you, as a private investigator, have dealt with many cases now that you have to deal with them, and it's sad. Yeah. It's sad.
It really is heartbreaking. The whole system, like you said, is broken. And so many people are on probation, parole, and these.
Let me give you another thing about institutionalization, Ed, and it's in my book. So make sure people listen. Gangster-Redemption, amazing book. When I send you one, you'll see. Maybe we send I'll send you two, and you give one away or whatever. But
yeah, because you remember I said I was going to sell it, right? Okay, go ahead.
Go ahead, sell it. I'll sign them.
Right,
Hey, Ed, when I got out of prison, I couldn't even buy a cup of coffee.
Right.
I was institutionalized. Here's why. The average person makes 1,500 decisions a day. What you're going to wear, get up, you're going to have ice, you're going to go to work, whatever, a whole bunch of things. The average inmate makes 100 choices. So you're institutionalized, and we don't do enough to help in the mindset. And I'm trying to work on a few projects. I mentioned the subscription service. That's the first thing we're doing. That's really coming, and that's going to be very powerful to help families, to open families' eyes so the kids don't go to. Hey, $10 a month, 2 cups of coffee. 2 cups of Starbucks. So my point is, we try to keep them out. I think you and I have come to an agreement that the system is broke.
Oh, yeah.
What we really need to come to an agreement is how do we keep kids out in all ways.
Now, what about once you're in there, okay, and there's a lot of guys in there that they just sleep all day. They try and sleep through like a 3-year sentence or a 5-year sentence all day long. Now, what about those guys?
Well, in the Federal Bureau of Prison, you can't do that.
Oh,
they kick you out.
Oh,
they
really?
kick you out and make you work or whatever they do. And I don't care if it's picking up cigarette butts or whatever. They don't have cigarette butts, but anyway, cleaning the yard or something. And they'll actually make you what they call, even if you don't have, because they don't have enough jobs for all the inmates, they make you go to the yard, sit out in the cold or whatever it is. But there are a lot of that. And here's what it is, Ed. There's a lot of people have such depression issues that they, get so down on life and everything. And if they do get out, they're very dangerous or a burden on society in a lot of different ways. So we have an issue with, of course, not doing enough in the system to help them. We know about the abuses going on. I think Clinton Correctional Facility and in Dannemora, what happened is just opening up the tip of the iceberg, Ed, on what is really going on and how we have to fix it and change the whole system.
Well, real quick, we got 9 minutes left before the break. We're going to drop a couple of stations, but we'll still be on a whole bunch of stations all over the UK and stuff like that. But real quick, what do you think happened there in Dannemora? Because if these guys, look, man, we got to face it. They were all friends. They're in the minimum security section. These guys are murderers. They kill cops. One of these guys killed a cop. And they wound up in the minimum security. Their buddies
he was in the honor dorm. There wasn't a minimum security. He was in an honor dorm.
Yeah, okay. You know what I'm saying. But the thing is, and then when they get out, where they find them? They're hiding out in another correction officer's cabin.
Well, they just say that's a coincidence because there's so many corrections. That's a big industry up in that area.
Yeah.
So a lot of people own cabins and whatnot. I think they had their plan. I mean, obviously more and more is coming out every day, and that's what I'm talking about. But everybody knows exactly what happened. They did get out. They did have the saw, and I talked about how they can get a saw blade through a metal detector and stuff like that. And as you know, now your listeners know, suitcasing. But what happens, Ed, is once they got out, obviously they didn't have another plan, and they didn't even have, I was very surprised at this, they didn't have an alternative plan, at least a direction to head. They had a 5-hour head start. They could have headed in any direction and nonstop. You can cover a lot of ground in 5 hours.
Oh, yeah.
You're moving. And so I am surprised about that. But now, Ed, they're finding out that Richard Matt was high. And you know where he got the drugs?
Yeah.
In the prison. He brought them out. He didn't have the drugs on the street. He got them in the prison.
And he didn't buy them in the sewer, right? So now,
right, so it kind of makes it, opens your eyes, and all your listeners in the UK and everybody else, and I hope they're listening of how messed up our system is, and they, realize. I hope they call me or email me, and you can give my email out. You can do anything you want on your show.
Do it right now, of course.
My email?
Yeah.
It's Larry, Larry, at Lawton, LAWTON911.com. Larry at Lawton911.com. I hope people research my website for help, do a lot. The book. Get the book with us, and if you send me a note in there, I'll sign the book for you. If the people get the book on my website, I'll sign it to them because I do that for
Yeah, very good. Yeah, I do that as well too. That's a big hassle, little man.
It can be.
I know, because neither one of us are in the business of packing and shipping books, man. I wind up.
No, but we have it. We have it. It's a way. I use my book, Ed, probably like you. It's more of opening people's eyes. The book is an amazing story, a true story about everything that goes on, how what I did, and the prison system, from the tortures to what happens, to how I developed the program.
I hear you, man. Back to the tortures, man. Like how would that happen? They would come pick you up at your cell and take you someplace?
Well, I was in the hole, Ed, and they would come down, and again, it's not like you see on TV. It's not like they have on this lockup and all that bull that's out there, because it's all BS. They come down. They don't put a camera in your face. They don't do anything. When you hear them come down and just put the key in the door, you know you're getting a beating.
Right.
And I've been shot. I've been maced. I've been concussion grenaded. And all to no avail. You can't beat them. I don't care how tough you are. I mean, I've hit guys in the helmet with my fist like an idiot. But, they come, they beat you, they strip you naked, they drag you, and they put you in a room, and what they call 4-point. They put handcuffs on your arms, legs, each one, and you are spread eagle naked. One guard took his penis out and peed in my face and told me, keep writing letters, Lawton. Keep writing letters, because I was writing letters to senators and congressmen, and eventually it helped. But Ed, in the opening of my book, I described that whole scene, and I am waiting, and I don't your one listener who wouldn't come on because she probably got too much heat.
Yeah.
I am not worried about that. I will sit in front of another hearing in Congress to try to fix this prison system and fix our broken justice system. In the meantime, I have to try to keep kids out of prison, and that's what we do.
Well, back to my friend there up there in Dannemora. Now, the people that are in the honor section, right? And now these are the guys that are getting along with the guards. What do you think of those kind of guys? Because obviously,
well, let me tell you what happens. I don't know. There's other people in that prison getting along with guards. What happens, Ed, is, a guard is in a prison with an inmate for 8 hours a day. They're really like another prisoner.
Yeah.
They're there, and they're interacting. They talk, unless you want them to be a robot. And I don't think that can happen. What I think happened, it was a total breakdown in little things. They're supposed to check cells. They rotate cells. They just did nothing. There's no way you could have been going that could have never happened in the Federal Bureau of Prisons, because they go around, they have checks, and they hit the window and bars with rubber hammers to see if there's any kind of different noise or anything that's broke. They hit and they look. What they have, random cell searches every day.
Right.
Every day they do that.
Well, even in this prison in Dannemora, they were not allowed to put the covers over their head at any time. They had that in the prison where we are, but we put our hats. Okay. We used to wear a wool cap and put it right over your eyes, because the light coming in and shining on you. And they checked you X amount of every. I could imagine what's going on right now, Ed, the kickback from all prisons. Every warden is destroying. I really, really feel bad right now for stuff that's going on in prisons right now. And, I hope our friends in other countries see it and look at the United States and say, I know about prison systems in Europe and in Italy and Spain and Germany, and they are not like the United States prison system. They have compassion. They have a heart. They have rehabilitation. We don't have that. They have taken the word rehabilitation out of our prison systems. The big problem right now. It's more like retaliation,
Absolutely. Good word. It's retaliation. And, your punishment is the sentence you got away from your family, away from what happened. And that's what it is. You're incarcerated. You are taken away with your liberties, not to be abused. And they have now taken it upon themselves to, I often say when someone hangs himself or dies in prison, I say that man should have never happened, because he wasn't sentenced to death. He was sentenced to an X amount of time incarcerated. So I think things have to change, and I'm not saying that this whole incident in Dannemora is going to happen again, the more people you put in prison for the longer stretches of time, people are going to want to get out. I mean, that's just human nature.
Now, what about when you go on these mainstream media stations, right? Are you like intimidated? They don't want to hear what you're saying tonight, right?
Oh, you know, you're gonna laugh, Ed. I don't care, and I do say, and sometimes, you know, as you can tell, I will just say it the way it is. And sometimes they get, you know, but I'll get the producers in my ear, Ed. You know, I'll be on, and the producers will say, Larry, you're great. Do what you do best.
Okay,
you know,
great.
Don't worry about it, you know, because they know what the public really wants to hear, and they really get it. So now you might get somebody up in management that might say, he has to toe the line. But I don't. If you hear me on any show, I tell it like it is, and I will. I'm the first one on this case when everybody was wishing this guy David Sweat dead.
Yeah.
They would say, oh, we hope he dies and this, and, you know, hope he gets the same fate as Richard Mack. I got on TV, Ed. And
Wait. Let's get into that. I got to take a break. Let's get into that when we get back, okay?
You got it. Ed.
Thank you.